if you can give all day, but receiving makes you awkward, makes you feel guilty or say even indebted, well, then there's actually an identity underneath all of that. And sometimes that can look like you're not struggling with money, but you're actually struggling with receiving. If you're actively seeking ways to build your mental toughness, navigate life transitions with grace, or simply find inspiration to keep moving forward, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Art of Beautiful Thinking podcast.
This is massive. Today, welcome to the Art of Beautiful Thinking. I'm Kat and this is Yvette. And today we are going to talk about the identity behind money and receiving.
Absolutely. Gosh, it's such a big topic, that too, isn't it?
Huge.
I know for me
huge.
that this is played out in my life in various forms throughout my life.
Yep.
And some of it has actually come around trauma experience. Now, funny, not my trauma, actually parents' trauma, and me
that's
seeing
interesting.
how they went through it. So they went through bankruptcy. And I saw them basically lose everything, but I also saw the domestic violence at the home skyrocket because of it.
Yeah.
They were totally under stress all the time. My mum had her own business. It was a baby clothing business. My father had his own building business, and they lost both. We had property investments. They lost all of them. And then we went back to an old house that we used to live in, and then they ended up having to sell that as well. But it was the watching them lose everything, but also watching that behaviour with it. And because we had to, and then after that, we had to move to a rental property, and the rental property wasn't allowed to have pets. I had 2 dogs and a cat, and I was the one that was very connected to animals and stuff like that. We could take the cat with us, but we couldn't take the dogs. I didn't know that. My parents didn't sit down and have a conversation with me about it. I just woke up in the morning and went to feed the dogs, and they weren't there.
No, that is the worst way to handle it.
Totally. And I was totally they thought it was the best way to get rid of the dogs whilst I was sleeping. It was like a totally wrong way of going about it. So I have associated all of those things to the money situation that my parents went through. And that has, throughout my life has played out, especially from a point of view when, say, I've been in between jobs, money's gotten a bit tight or things like that, and I would start stressing about money and freaking out. But anxiety-wise, you get becoming really anxious over it, and realising that fear. If I talk about that time of going into the Defence Career Centre and applying for the Air Force job. Again, that was out of fear because I was fearing I don't have enough money. And a lot of that has come back from that past
loss
trauma. And it's not my trauma, it was my parents' trauma, but I took it on.
Well, you lived through it. You lived through it, and it impacted you. It actually did traumatize you. It taught you.
It impacted me big time.
You can lose everything.
Yeah, and I had to really, I still do a lot of work on my relationship with money. Now, I am someone who's actually very, very good at handling money. I save really well. I invest money really well, all of those types of things. But I will also have difficulty in receiving it because of that anxiousness of pushing it away. Well.
You've got to be the provider. You've got to be the safety person. Like from a safety perspective, you've got to be the one bringing that money in because you can't rely on anyone else because it's easy to lose. That's the narrative.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I can vibe with you on that because I went through very similar in my childhood. My mother was married 5 times. And so we would change, our lifestyle would change with each husband. So, when she was married to my dad, we were very poor. And then when she married the guy after him, I think it was, I can't remember, they all merged together. We lived in an enormous mansion in England where I had my own pony, but it was all very short-lived and it was all dependent upon. And then he collapsed in a terrible thing of alcoholism and the whole thing went to shit. So same thing, had very big highs, very low lows, lots of up and down loss. And for me, money isn't really about money. It's about security and stability.
Yeah.
That's and
that's exactly what it is for me, because I suppose that that event or several events that happened as a kid and seeing that unfold, that's what I noticed for me is what money is about that sense of security,
safety,
and also freedom to be able to express myself.
To choose what you want to do with your time.
Choose what I want, but also express myself. And I think coming to that realization as well, and it can show up not just in money, but also in do you receive help from people or do you push back on receiving help? Are you a giver and not a receiver? And do you feel guilty? Like if you do receive something, do you feel as if you have to reciprocate? All of
Yeah.
those types of things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can show up in a number of different ways, but I tend to find for me, money is the area it shows up quite a bit in.
Mm.
And especially when I'm going through a bit of a lull with finances or something like that, it, not so much today, but it does trigger that
Yeah,
anxious
me
stuff.
too.
Wasn't it?
Me
It
too.
wasn't until I
Mm.
started recognizing what was actually playing out and doing work on that's my relationship with money started to change.
And that's so important. It's something that we're not taught. No one talks about this. Your relationship with money is so important. I'm very similar to you in that I was always, oh God, I can't rely on anyone else to get the money.
Mm,
It
mm.
has to be me because I can't trust people. They might be able to get the money, but they can't hang on to it. And that was always my belief. And that played out in my first marriage. So I would be earning the money. He had a decent paying job too, but he would just be wasting it on just
Yeah.
stupid get rich quick schemes and dumb ideas. And God knows, I don't even know where some of it went because I just saw that it had gone places and he wouldn't give me a straight answer. So people say it's not what you earn, it's how you spend it. And I agree with that to an extent, but you also can't stretch $100 into 1,000. So,
You got to invest to happen, but
well, not immediately.
not
So,
immediately.
I think a big key of it is, yeah, I've always been a giver
Yeah.
and always felt like if someone gave me something, I had to reciprocate because there was a power imbalance and I never wanted to owe anyone anything.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And also asking for help. That's the other thing. So, I look at Jeff and we've done renovations on our property, and we had friends in the early days going, "Oh, we'll come and help. We'll come and help." And we're like, "No, no, 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 no. We can do it all." And we
We
did
have
do
to
like
do it
occasionally,
ourselves.
occasionally I would ask for help, but
Yeah.
but in asking for help, we'd always give something back, coming
Yeah.
and helping. And it really does come back down to that thing of it's a control mechanism, I suppose. And
Yeah.
it goes back to what you were saying before. I can only rely on myself. I can't rely on other people.
And we have standards. I noticed this when we were on holidays in New Zealand. So you and I really navigated to make sure that we both evenly paid for things, with the accommodation and all that kind of stuff. And I really respected that. I was like, I love how Eva's doing this, and there was no issue, there was no drama. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't do that. They don't negotiate things so that everybody's comfortable.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing is when I started to work on looking at that relationship that I had with money or even with receiving help or things like that and unraveling that. And I'm still, as I said, I still unravel it because something will pop up and you go,
Yeah.
interesting that's playing out. Okay. Why is this playing out? Now, what's it triggering in me? What
Yeah.
memory is coming up? Because when we're trying to build, especially now we're building a business, etc. And as you know, when you're building a business, you'll go through a lull of finances
Oh, yeah.
and then you'll have a lot of money coming and then you'll have a lull
Yeah.
again. And so you've got to become very, very good at managing your money
Yeah.
as well.
Yep. Feast and
But
famine.
you hear people talking a lot about being on the right frequency to receive money. And I look at it and I go, as I said before, you can actually be very, very good with handling money. You can, you don't struggle with money at all. But what you do struggle with is feeling that you are worthy enough in receiving it and in receiving it in large amounts.
Yeah, well, some of the poorest people I know are fantastic at managing money. They're dirt poor, so they know exactly how to
You know how to
eke their
budget.
money out.
All of that
They're
type of
very
thing.
disciplined, but they don't
Yeah.
have a bloody red cent extra to rub together. You couldn't say to them, "You want to go out for dinner tonight?" Like I have a cousin in England who lives on the bones of his ass. And I remember being over there for holidays. We went back 2014, I think it was. And I said, "Well, we're going out for dinner. I'll shout you. Would you like to come out?" He goes, "I can't." I said, "Oh, you got something else on?" He goes, "No, I've pulled food out of the freezer tonight and it has to be eaten."
Yeah. And I think it's important to, yes, you've got to manage your money wisely. But there's also the thing of not actually, I suppose, giving yourself a hard time about, well, okay, I've done this. You could always put back in the fridge and have it tomorrow for dinner. It's like if
Yeah.
something's popped up.
Or if you bought it, but he bought it on special, see?
Yeah.
And it was already going to be out of
There we
date.
go. Yeah.
So you don't need to
But,
cross it.
but
Chuck it in
where
the
I'm
bin.
coming from is we can actually have our scruples around it, but I think you've also got to be quite smart about it because part of money is also a form of expression.
It's
And
energy.
it
Mm.
is energy, yeah. And
Yeah.
when you have money, you can do more things from a point of view of, well, I like traveling, so I can travel more.
Yep.
If I want to bring a friend with me, I could pay for a friend to come with
Yep.
me.
Yep.
Or I love to, have people come over for dinner and have really good food and
Yes.
a good quality food, so I can afford to actually purchase that food and express my gratitude to my friends and family or what have
Exactly.
you around
All my
around that.
friends.
It's
Yeah.
a form of expression. I can
Mm.
purchase certain clothes that I feel express me as an individual or
Yeah.
as a personality type of thing. I can actually, you look at people that like the mega wealthy who have more of a voice because they have money than
Yeah.
people who don't have money.
Yep.
And so it's another form of expression. They can actually voice their opinions and actually be heard. And the
Yep.
funny thing is people will follow what they're doing all
Mm.
because they've got money.
Yep. They've got influence that comes
Yeah,
with money.
that
Mm.
comes with money, correct. And so money can do a lot for you. And I also look at it and go, money is one of those things that, you hear about, well, money's the root of all evil and blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
No,
I hate
money's
that
actually,
saying.
it's a form of existence. In the Western world, we don't have a barter system. We have
Yeah.
a financial system.
Yep.
And,
Money makes
and
the world
yes,
go round.
yeah, exactly right. And yes, that financial system may be moving away from dollars and moving
Yep.
into Bitcoin or moving into gold or anything like that, but it's still always finances. The money thing, the financial thing, that's always going to be around because in the Western world, that's the system of currency. That's our
That's right.
currency. And that's also how we show service to people. You've given me a service, so I pay for your service.
That's
And
how we
that's
make a
how we
living.
show that
Mm.
respect for the service. Your service is worth this, and this is what I'm paying for it. So it's quite interesting how money does play out in our life, and I think you've got to really build a very good relationship with it from that point of view. It's not
Yep.
a bad thing. It's a
Yep.
tool,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a tool that you can use to express yourself. Now, if you're an asshole, yes, you get to express yourself like an asshole, and if you're a very nice person, you get to express yourself more like a nice person. Yeah, it's not
Yeah, money's a
money doesn't.
magnifier.
Yeah, exactly. It's a
Mm.
magnifier. It doesn't make you turn you into an asshole. You were already an asshole before you got it.
You just
So
stop hiding
it's
it.
no, exactly right. So it's just that's all it actually is. It's just a tool. And I remember hearing Tony Robbins say as well that and you just mentioned it before. It is a spiritual tool
Mm. It is.
because it can be
Energy tool.
used to express yourself quite well. Money.
Yeah.
And some of the things that you can do with it. So imagine for a second if you were bringing in quite a bit of money and you had a surplus amount of money, what could you then invest that money into to make a difference to people in your life, to make a difference on a planetary level? You could
Mm.
invest in, say, new technologies
Yep.
that, like advanced technologies that could help nature, that
Yeah.
could help human race,
Yep.
anything.
How big do you want to go with it?
How
I
big
mean,
do you want to
even
go?
yeah.
And that's the whole thing is money allows you to do that. It allows you to play on a big
Yes.
scale
It
if you
does.
want.
It does. And having no money, I mean, I know when I studied at uni, what I found fascinating was that the biggest single predictor of health in individuals in the Western world is their wealth,
Yeah.
which I
Because
found
then you've got
fascinating.
access. You've got access to certain
Yeah.
health.
Even in Australia where we have free healthcare, it's not really. There's still charges that you've got to pay. But if you've got enough money to afford your healthcare and your dentistry and all of that kind of stuff, then you're going to have better health because you're going to have better outcomes because you're going to go to the doctor. You're not going to go, oh, look, I can't do it this year. Can't
Yeah.
get my teeth checked, whatever, you know.
Or it's also you can afford to pay for supplements because
Yep.
they're going to help you out. Nutrition. You can buy better quality food. You can
Yep.
go and afford a gym. There's all these different things that money
That's
can
right.
provide because
Yep.
as I said, it's our currency. It's our exchange tool. So it's
Yep.
really about looking at it that way. And I think that's a part of it. So when you're looking at receiving, what does receiving actually equal? And you've got receiving is allowing support,
Oh,
allowing
yeah.
yourself to get support. It's also showing you care as well,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because if you're someone who loves to give but you're not good at receiving, you get something off of giving, right? Well, what about the
Yeah.
other person who wants to give to you and you've got to
Yeah.
so if it's a form of that caring. Mentioned about money quite a bit already. There's opportunities that can pop up as well through
Yeah,
receiving,
absolutely. Yep.
receiving opportunities. Do you take compliments as well?
Mm,
Someone
mm.
that takes compliments. Now, I know that I went through a phase, spoke about when we've spoken about relationships and things like that, where I'd go into parties and I'd feel a bit insecure about things, and I'd walk away thinking people like me. And whenever someone
We
gave
all
me a
we all do that.
yeah, whenever someone gave me a compliment, I was always like, "What do they want?" Or
Mm,
they, they're just trying to be nice to me. They don't really mean it. Yeah, so I wouldn't
interesting.
actually accept the compliment. And that was probably one of the first things I started working on when it came to this receiving.
Oh,
I
that's a great
was,
place to start.
was
That is a
receiving
really good place to
compliments.
start.
Yeah,
Mm.
I started to go, okay, get used to receiving compliments.
Yep.
So whenever someone said to me, "Oh, I love your hair," I'd go, "Thank you."
Yes.
Or, "I love what you're wearing," I'd go, "Thank you."
Yep.
Even though inside I
Absolutely.
still may be going, I'd still go, rather than going, not acknowledging it or just going smiling, I go, "Thank you." And
Yeah.
now when someone says something to me, it's funny, occasionally I've had a friend recently saying, "Yvette, I love your ass." I go, "Yeah, no, I do love your ass, don't I?"
God love them. Bless you. Bless you, sister.
Yeah. And I just go, "Yeah, I know I've got a great ass, don't I? I do a lot
That's
of
good.
working out. That's why my ass." So it's, it's just, but it's that acknowledgement. It was done in a bit
A
of
joke,
jest and
of
fun,
course, but it's
but
lovely to receive.
yeah, but it's
I always
something that
make
I
a
wouldn't
point.
have been able to do,
Mm.
when I was younger. I would have been embarrassed by that.
I
So
make a
yeah,
point of complimenting, especially women, obviously
yeah,
not men really, but women. When I see women looking amazing, and my daughter Ruby has started doing it. We went out for breakfast the other morning, and a lady came in, and she had all of this beautiful red hair piled up on top of her head, and she just looked really good. And Ruby just went, "Oh my God, I love her hair." And I went, and I sat back. Ruby goes, "Quick, get her attention," because she was sitting down here. And I went, "Excuse me." And this lady looked over and said, "Yes, what is it?" And Ruby went, "I just wanted to tell you that I really love your hair. I think it looks amazing." And this woman went, "Oh my God, you absolutely made my day." Now, there's been other times where I've given a compliment to someone and we all felt good, right? We
yeah,
all felt good.
yeah,
Ruby was like, "Oh, I made her feel good." And the lady was like, "Oh, this is great. Everyone feels good about that." But
yeah,
there are other times when I've given a compliment to someone, I've gone, "You look beautiful today." And they've gone, "What?" I've gone, "You look lovely today, like your hair or that top suits you or whatever." And they're like, "Yeah, well, I just threw it on."
yeah. And I think that goes back to them receiving the compliment. They can't receive the compliment. So that's that first. I think that's that really the first easy step you can do is to receive a compliment.
She makes the person giving the compliment feel crappy
It
when
does
you
when you
don't receive
exactly,
it.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and you look at them and
It's
think,
funny.
"Oh, okay. I won't
Yeah,
compliment you again."
yeah. And it's not about entitlement either. It's not about going, "Oh, I'm entitled to this and I'm
No.
entitled to that." It's more, it goes back to being, I suppose, it's gratitude. And also when we talk about finances as well, you are worthy enough. You are
Yeah.
good enough.
It's funny, I mean, that is such a massive one. I think worth is number 1. I think
Mm,
that's the number 1 because I've had a conversation where I've said, mother asked me, "What are you doing with yourself work-wise at the moment?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing a podcast." And she's like, "Oh, how are you gonna pay your bills?" And I went, "Oh, it's gonna be fine. I've got that under control." And she's like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "Well, how's that gonna look?" And I'm like, "I'm not gonna explain my whole financial life to you. However, I will say that I've got an investment that's doing well and I'm working on other things. So don't worry." And Joe's doing well. So just don't worry. We're fine. And she's like, "Oh, okay. So we don't have to work then, do we? Sounds like you've got quite the charmed life, isn't it?" And I'm like, "I deserve it."
yeah.
And then she's like, "Yeah." Mm. But she's had times where she's been very wealthy and then she's lost it all because there's a core belief inside her. She's now getting on for 84 this year, right? Or 83 this year. She's now old, unwell, and constantly trying to prove her worth by continuously being of service to other people, like doing housework, cooking. She's still in that stage. And that's another thing. That's a smaller, I suppose, example of worth. Are you constantly putting yourself out just to give to everyone around you? Because if you don't, you feel guilty or you feel bad. And that will actually link back to your prosperity and your financial
Mm,
success. Because if you're one of these people that's constantly laying down themselves and sacrificing and serving others, not because you feel good about that or that's your calling or it fills up your cup, you just, "Oh, I've just got to keep going. I've just got to keep doing it." That will affect your prosperity because you can't step back and say, "Actually, I deserve more than this."
Yeah, because it's that frequency again, goes back to
The same
what is
mindset.
what is your reasoning for giving? Are you
Yeah.
giving out of selflessness because you love helping other people out, and it's part of your core values, and
Yeah.
it helps you express yourself,
Yeah.
or are you doing it out of guilt?
Or are you just wrecking yourself on you're throwing yourself upon I suppose, the sacrificial altar of, I'm a good person here. I'll prove it every day. I'll start from zero
Yeah,
every day.
yeah,
How
yeah.
exhausting.
It is. It's totally exhausting, and I think that it's really looking at what are your reasonings behind certain behaviors.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I go back to it, as I said, the first stage of receiving is to receive a compliment,
Yeah. Receive a
and if you
compliment.
can, give a compliment to
Yeah.
someone as well. It's and just take it easy that way. It's simple little things, and then
Receive an
gradually,
invitation. Receive an invitation. Receive an offer of assistance. Like I
yeah,
know when we were going
or
to
ask for assistance. Mm,
yes, I know
mm,
when we were going to New Zealand, you and I was like, "Do you want to come?" And you were like, "Yes, we'll pitch in for the car." And I was like, "We've already paid for the car. Don't worry about it. We're going to pay for that anyway, whether you're coming or not." And you're like, "Okay, cool. I accept that. Lovely. Well, I'll pay for accommodation on this night and I'll take us out to dinner." I was like, "Cool, whatever." It all works out. But yeah, being able to receive without resentment is
yes,
another thing, because I've
it is.
also given to people who have taken my giving as an attempt to lord it over them or make myself look better than them, which I find at first, it didn't even dawn on me or occur to me that someone could think that. But then I've also found that, yeah, we've given people, I've assisted people into jobs, really
Yeah,
high paying jobs where they've lasted 3 months and gone, I can't do this, and gone back to their shitty job that pays next to nothing because their self worth was not ready to
for
accept
that.
the higher paying
Yeah,
position. They just weren't there. And that's
yeah.
what it boiled down to. And they resent me because I gave them that job. And now that they think they feel like a failure and that I've made them feel bad. I haven't made them feel bad. I've given
So
them an
they've done that to
opportunity.
themselves. Yeah.
They've made themselves feel bad.
Themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think it goes back to there are it's a receiving pattern really.
Yep.
What is your pattern of behavior? And if you mentioned it there about the self-worth component as well. If you do not feel worthy of the position that you've just given, it's the same thing. How many people win lotto and then
Oh
they're
God.
12
All
months
the
later
money's gone.
they're back
Yeah.
to where they were. They've won millions and all of a sudden they're
Mm.
back to where they were. And
Yep.
you go, why? Why is that? Yes, you could look at it
Mm.
and say, oh, they haven't been taught how to manage money properly and all that type of thing. But what it actually comes down to is their relationship and their self-worth with
Relationship with their
themselves and
self.
the relationship, also the
Absolutely.
relationship with money. How do they view money?
Which
But
flows
mostly
from your
the relationship
self-worth.
with yourself, it's self-worth.
It all flows. It all stays together, because if you feel that you are a person who is destined to live a great life, to do
Yeah.
exciting things, to be surrounded by people that fill your cup up, that you learn stuff, you go and travel and you live in a nice home and you want to live in a beautiful car and you enjoy the pleasure every day of driving around in that vehicle and being able to make phone calls and being able to go and buy things or put your kids through university and afford to assist them with all of that stuff, and you feel that that is something that that's something that you're worth. That's how life's going to come to you because
Mm.
you're showing up, you're being that person. That's your identity. If you're that person who just constantly, and I know people like this. Everything's a struggle. Everything's a stress. Everything's a struggle. I've got to hang on to every single cent that I've got, and I'll just make sure that I mound up money in the bank just in case, just in case, just in case for a rainy day. A rainy day never fucking comes.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that too with people who have got a lot of money.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, there's some people that I know who are multimillionaires and they're very much still like that, even with the
Stingiest
fact
people on the planet.
they just it's still the, oh, I've got to really hold on to it. What happens if I can't lose it? And but then they like that whole status around money, that what money gives them as well.
Yep.
And so they've got this, I've got to portray myself as being this person who
Wealthy.
has all this status and wealthy in that. But then at the same time, I'm freaked out that I could lose all of it tomorrow.
I've seen some people that have zero debt and make quite a few $100,000 a year. So they're quite comfortable, like not stinking rich by any means, but they're really quite comfortable. And, the wife is still working as a cleaner at the RSL. and getting up every morning in her 60s and 70s, flogging herself and not buying any new clothes for herself, and, saying, I'll retire when he retires. And then when he retires, he decides he's got to go back to work because he's got nothing else in his life. And they've got shitloads of money, like all stashed in a safe or in the bank or whatever. But they're just always in that, I suppose, poverty mentality.
Yeah.
Where they're holding on to whatever they've got just in case. And they live poor. They live in houses with worn out appliances and threadbare carpets and shitty old doonas that they've slept in for the last 20 winters, that they're still cold and uncomfortable, and they don't want to turn the heating on because if they do, it might cost money.
Yeah, I mean, I hear people doing that frugal living, that have got wealth, and it's all about, they still glad wrap their food, and they still, and that's cool, I think, to a point. But when you're doing it to extreme, there's, for me anyway, I look at it and I believe that there's something else playing out there.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying go out there and spend all your money by any
No,
means, but I'm
but
saying
it goes back to what we were saying about
comfortable.
you may be really good with money. You may have a lot of money as well, but you're just not good at receiving it and having that relationship with it.
Well, if we look at money as energy,
yeah.
It's a form of service. It's energy, right? So if you have a pool of water that's just sitting there doing nothing, it's going to stagnate. And money doesn't actually, I think the nature of money, I think in feng shui, doesn't like to be held on too tightly.
It needs to be in circulation. That's what it's about. Yeah.
That's right. So I'm not saying go out there and spend every cent you earn. I'm saying sit in that nice, it's all a balancing act, isn't it?
It is.
Make sure you've got enough.
You can still have money in investing money, but you put it in a circulation, invest it. You can put it in your savings. What are you saving for?
Yeah.
And the saving is still in circulation because the banks actually use that money as well to do things with. Yep. But it's got to be in circulation. You need to have it in circulation. It's a part of that, the ability to serve others as well. And for people I have a coaching business. I get paid for that coaching business because of service. And that's what it's all for. You go to the supermarket, you buy your food at the supermarket. Yep. The farmer who created that food, they've been paid by the supermarket because they've grown that food because it's all part of a service. So it's all service orientated, and it needs to be kept in circulation. But again, you go back to, it's that relationship with receiving. How are you with receiving? Now,
if I update my life,
when you've got it, do you feel guilty about it? Well, I've got to hold on to money. I can't let it. We've got to keep working that way because what if? Because
that means that I think I'm a poor person and that one day the money's going to run out and I'm going to need to fall back on that because I'm a poor person.
Yeah.
That's the message you're sending out to the universe.
Yeah.
Whereas if you say I'm a wealthy person who knows how to create wealth, I know how to give to people that I love. I know how to keep that money in circulation. I know how to upgrade my life. If I need a new doona, I'm going to go and buy one because it's too cold not to, and I'm going to enjoy sleeping in it. And I'm going to tell myself and tell my self-conscious, I'm worth it all the time. I'm worth it. This is why we work. This is why we have money, so that we can live a good quality of life and we can enjoy it with the people that we love, and look after our health and spend time doing that stuff, not to hoard or just sit on and, or be super frugal.
Exactly.
Hey?
You've got the opposite extreme as well, where people will overspend and they'll buy all the brand stuff and they'll buy this.
Oh, God.
Even when they don't have the money, they'll do all of that because they want to be seen as someone important.
And again, that's not money. That's the identity.
Exactly. And they're trying to create this identity. And again, it's for validation, external validation from other people. We want other people to see us as being like this,
Yes, that's right.
Again, so I'd go back and say that is a self-worth issue once again. It's fascinating how it plays out. You do, I believe there are 4 receiving blocks around worth, safety, control, and identity, I think it is.
That's spot on. Yeah. And can you explain what those are?
We've been speaking about the worth a lot. So do I deserve this without proving myself?
Yep.
Without the need to prove myself, do I actually deserve it? Yeah.
And do I believe I deserve it?
Yeah. Safety. If I was to actually receive, could I lose it?
Yeah.
Maybe. what are the fears then when you look at that? What are the fears attached to losing it? What are the judgments that you have, or the perceptions or dependence that you have
Dependence, that's been a
around?
big one for me. I didn't like being dependent upon my husband, but actually
Mhm.
we had a conversation over Christmas and I said, I've really struggled with this. And he said, just be aware that if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be as successful as I am. And I said, why not? And he goes, because what would be the point of earning money if there's no one around to share it with? And I went, oh, all right, well, I'll be your muse then. Can I have that handbag?
See, you got a role to play. Uh, you got the
Yep,
control one, which is if I let someone give it to me, I'm not in charge. So
big one,
yeah,
big
yeah.
one.
And I know that for me has been a big thing around money. I've always felt that I've got to
Yes,
earn it. I've really got to earn it,
me
rather than
too.
going, why can't I just receive it? Why do I have to
Yeah.
earn it? Like, gosh, haven't I earned it just by being alive and doing all these amazing things that I've done in my life?
I've never
Anyway.
trusted anyone to give me money because no one in my life has ever given me money that I didn't actually pay for it a million times more afterwards.
Hmm.
That was a big
Yeah,
one for me.
but what if the universe gave me $1 million tomorrow?
Well, my mindset has shifted since I've done the workbook. I'm feeling a lot better about that.
I love it. But is it, do you know what I mean? So for me, it
Yeah,
was, no, I can't receive it that way. It can only come to me because I've earned it,
because I've
because
worked
I've
really
actually
hard,
done the hard work for it. Yeah.
done the
Like
grind.
that. I'd like $1 million tomorrow. Thank you very much. Yes. Out there. Thank you. And then the identity. I'm the giver. I'm the strong one. I don't need help.
Oh, yeah. I know so
I
many
fall
people like
into that
this.
one as well. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
And they may be the giver. And I've seen, like, I've actually had female relatives. My nan was like this. She used to save her pension. You know, she had a lovely house in London that she saved and paid off over the years. She saved every penny from her pension. She used to, every single part of her life was frugal, every single part. She still managed to enjoy herself. But do you know what? Whenever anyone needed any money, she'd be like, yep, yeah. She always had some money
Yeah.
stashed away for people. And I think she loved playing that part and helping because she grew up in extreme poverty. So she
Yeah.
really enjoyed that. And she always had enough that she was comfortable in her own way. But I remember when she sold her house in London and made a ton of money out of it, she was overwhelmed and didn't know what to do with it all. She's like, oh, I need to give it all away. I need to give all that money
Yeah.
away now. I don't
Yeah.
deserve to hold on to that.
Well, that a similar thing happened to me when my sister passed when I was in my late teens. My sister had passed, and we got money from her life insurance,
Mm.
and my parents decided to split that across the family, as in with us kids
Oh,
and them.
okay. Yeah.
Yep. And so I got money from my sister's death because it came from her death. I didn't want it, for one
Yeah.
thing, but then
Yep.
I was also never taught how to manage money, what to do
Yeah.
with,
Yep.
and I spent it very, very quickly. I told myself I was spending it because I was bringing joy in for Lisa as well, who was my sister who passed. I was kind of going, I'm
Mm.
going to go off and travel around Australia, and I'm going to buy
Yep.
nice things because I'm experienced stuff, not just for me, but also for her.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't wait to get rid of it.
Yeah. Isn't it funny?
Now,
It
the
yeah.
amount of money I was given, I could have actually purchased a house back then.
Yeah. Right. I had a similar experience. My dad gave me a massive chunk of money. And it came from his business because I think he used it like a tax deduction in England. So
Mhm.
he threw this massive chunk of money at me. It was actually guilt money because he'd never paid a cent to my mother in child support and hadn't really helped me financially. And I wasn't struggling. I was just renting an apartment in Brisbane, working, doing what everyone does. And I had enough money there to put down a fat deposit and almost pay off a house,
Yeah,
or pay for my. I think my
yeah,
unit was worth like at that time I could have bought my unit for like $90,000
yeah,
and I had almost that much. I could have just whacked it down and bought the bloody thing. But it was, for me, it felt like guilt money. So I didn't want it. I
yeah,
just didn't want it. And it wasn't part of my plan to buy, which was dumb. Again, hadn't ever been taught to manage money. And it was a way of my dad offloading his guilt. And I sensed that. So I was like, "Pfft, same thing, wasted it all."
yeah. And that's, when you look at it, what were the feelings and the emotions behind that? So for me, it was, again, I actually did feel guilty
Yeah, me
that I
too.
got a whole heap of money from my
Mm,
sister's death
yeah, 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 you would do. Yeah,
and couldn't wait to get rid of it, rather than going, okay, not
I
the best
deserve
way to get
this.
it, but,
Yeah.
let's invest it wisely, or let's do something wise with it. And my parents didn't even sit me down to have a conversation with me, or even
No,
get me in front of a financial advisor or anything like that. Just,
no.
"Here you go, here's the money."
Or
Um,
explain,
no.
inflation works and that if you could.
And I was 17.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm 17 years old, and I've been given this step load of money, and I'm just sitting there going, okay.
Yeah. If my
I'm going to
kids
go
ever come
spend
into
it.
any money, I'll
I'm
be
going to
like,
spend it really quickly and get rid of it.
yeah, I was the same. But if my kids ever came into any money or I gave my kids a big chunk of money, I'll go, right, how are you going to invest this for your future?
Exactly.
Let's talk about your options. And
And
how
I
do you
think
feel about this?
that was probably a really good life lesson for me, because later on, when I had to work for money and things like that, I realized, well, that was actually a really good
Yeah.
opportunity that I kind of really pissed up the wall, didn't I? And I looked at it and I went, why did I do that? Yes, there was the thing about my sister's death, and
Yeah.
but also there was the element of guilt around that.
Yeah.
And again,
Survivor guilt.
not feeling worthy of receiving that.
Mm.
And okay, my sister had to die for me to receive that. So that should
Yeah.
have, in fact, actually been the opposite of, let's do wise things with this,
Yeah.
because she did die for me to receive this.
Yeah. But again, you live and you learn. You got to forgive
You do.
yourself
You
and
do.
move forward. And you're totally different around money now, obviously.
I am very different.
Yeah.
But it's been all of those things that have happened, watching my parents,
Mm.
and seeing what happened then. Then they got money back, obviously, because my
Yeah.
sister, and they were starting to build their life again. And then my dad died and my sister died. There's all these things happening. And getting rid of it again because of not feeling like I was worthy of it. And then through my own acts, going, no, I've got to earn it. That
Yeah.
again, going back to, I have to earn it. Money has to be earned well. So therefore, if I earn it well, I don't feel guilty about having it. So
And
it's,
that's actually really interesting, that receiving pattern that looks
yeah,
like being noble.
yeah,
It's actually avoidance.
it is avoidance. Yeah. Isn't that interesting how it plays out? So, yeah, I think you've got to really be mindful of that. Be very mindful of that. What is that avoidance? So, what are the receiving patterns? And they were my patterns. They
Yeah.
were my patterns. Not my patterns now.
No.
But it does go back to that avoidance thing, as you were saying.
Yeah, I've gone through this recently with not working anymore and allowing Joe to be the main source of income. And again, felt really guilty about it. Felt really weird. Like I've always earned my own way. And obviously my father was never a good role model. I couldn't trust him to look after me. I couldn't trust any adults to look after me when I was young. So as I got older, I got very independent and determined to earn my own things. And then my first husband, I trusted him to be on the team. And then it was a complete disaster. I lost it all. But all through that process, I also remember always feeling very unsafe and being absolutely determined to earn as much money as I could in my business. Even though he was still earning decent money, I had to earn lots of money. It always came back on me. It was always on my shoulders. I had to be the one. I don't know why. That was just how my thought process was. And we're doing really well. We could lose everything. That was always my mindset. So, of course, we lost everything when I divorced him. And you know what? Before I was going to divorce him, even if I hadn't have, we would have still lost everything because he was sneaking around behind my back doing dumb shit with money that I didn't know until I started going through the divorce process. I didn't realize how much debt we were in. So, in a way, like you're saying, what happened with your sister was really devastating, but it's also an amazing lesson to know, okay, well, how did I get to this point? How do I need to shift my beliefs around money? So I've had loads of conversations with my husband now about all this stuff. And it's been very impactful upon him because I think it's made him, originally when we first got together, he wasn't particularly ambitious and he didn't like the politics and things. But then he just went, you know what, if I'm going to win at my chosen career path, I'm just going to have to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
And so he's just become a master at it now. And I said to him, what made you change? And he said, I want to give you and the girls the best life possible. He said, that's my mission in life. He said, that's what really drives me and keeps me going, which I think is absolutely beautiful. Do I still feel guilty about it sometimes? Yes, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And funnily, the less guilty I feel, the more he suddenly goes, oh, guess what? And I go, what? He goes, oh, this is going to happen. I'm like, oh my God.
And I think that's the thing, when you start allowing and
Stop
you
being such a control freak.
realizing you are worthy. You don't need to earn it.
No.
Because you already have earned it.
This is a foreign concept, isn't it, to most people?
It is. And I think it can show up in people's lives in things we've mentioned about the overgiving, about rejecting when people trying to help you out and
Yeah.
rejecting that help and resenting it. Or if you're in business for yourself, discounting your prices because you don't think you're good enough.
Oh my God, I've got a terrible story about that.
Oh, to tell.
Oh my goodness. An enormously large international miner that I was trying to get on board with my stable of mining guys. You know, I had some big names, some international multinationals that were working with me. So I went to this miner many times. I did a big promotion, loads of presentations, really tried to talk them into giving my products a go. I knew that they would save a lot of money with them. And I made the absolute dumbest mistake ever. So to try and get my mirrors on their trucks, I gave them 20 grand's worth of mirrors for free.
That's a lot. God.
But
I
I
mean,
thought, if I get in there, they're a massive multinational, they've got loads of mines, I'll get in, it'll be huge. It's totally worth doing because I'll make a shit ton of money out of them if they want it, if they agree that my products are the good ones. So I gave them 20 grand's worth of mirrors for free. And do you know what? Those mirrors sat in their, they told me, they just sat in their warehouse for like 18 months before they even bothered to put one on. And then I think they put them on 4 trucks or something, and then at the end of it, they did a trial and they went, "Yeah, the downtime's way better, but we're not buying them off you." I was like, "Why
now,
not?"
isn't that interesting? Because that's the whole thing. When you actually devalue your yourself or your product or things
Terrible
like that,
lesson. Mm,
it's actually something that people do. If people get
yes.
something for free, they don't
Yep.
value it.
They don't value it.
They do not
And that
value.
was desperation on my part. I really wanted this. They're a massive, massive company. I wanted them desperately, but I was too desperate. And yeah, they didn't value what I'd given them. And then they went through the whole process of, oh yeah, we're gonna get the mirrors on. And then in the end they just said, nah, I don't think we will.
Yeah, and you lost 20,000 worth of mirrors. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
It's interesting how that does play out because I've seen that a lot in business with people, especially when I've done consulting and I've seen what people do. It's there is a strategy of giving people a certain thing for free, as a mechanism to get more from it, or a
They can
sample.
in future now they can have a fucking biro. That's all they
Yeah,
get out of me.
or you get a
I've learned.
sample of something, but you don't
Yeah.
go berserk. It's quite small. It's something that um, it will provide value to the person,
Mm,
but it won't provide them so much value that they won't come back to you. It's just enough to intrigue them to get them to come back to you and go,
yeah.
okay, I want more. Um, that's the only time you do it, but you don't go, oh, here, I'm going to give you all of this for free,
Yeah. But then,
expecting
it was
that.
really an interesting time. I mean, I blamed a lot of it on what was going on. And what I realize now is a lot of it was me. And I learnt from that. So then I had another guy that I couldn't stand working with. He was awful, but I had to work with him. He rang me out of the blue, another massive multinational miner, going, we're getting 10 new trucks. We need 10 new mirrors. I went, oh, great. That's 30 mirrors, actually, because you need two on the right-hand side, one on the left. You want to send that order through? I can organize that for you. He goes, oh, well, we thought because we're such a good customer that you might do that for us for free. And I said, oh, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm a business, not a charity.
Exactly.
And he went, oh, well, we'll go and buy them off someone else then. I went, good luck.
Yep. See you later.
And you
And
know
you
what?
know,
They came back and they bought those mirrors off me because I was the only person that owned the design and had built them in the whole of the
yeah,
world.
that area.
They
Yeah.
came back and bought them off me because I
Yeah.
stood my ground. So totally different experiences from being sort of really green to having learnt my lesson.
Yeah, exactly. And
Mm.
and that's the good thing about it is you did learn your lesson. And even with him saying, well, okay, we'll go buy them from someone else, it's like, well, you won't because you're actually asking them for free. So are you saying you're actually going to go pay for them from somebody else because they're not going to give them to you for free?
Well, good luck because,
Good luck
yeah,
with
I
that.
mean, yeah,
It's
unbelievable,
fascinating how people are.
isn't it?
But and I think that's the other thing is we have these things of how they play out and it's really about looking at it and looking at the patterns and going, okay,
Yeah,
what is this pattern telling me
yeah,
around
yeah,
receiving in any form,
yeah,
as well as money. Money just happens to be one of the key things that I think a lot of people do
yeah,
struggle with relationship with is around money. So what is some of the things that you can change? We mentioned about receiving a compliment. You could receive help as well.
yep,
You know?
yeah, that'd
Uh,
be great. Yep,
yeah.
yep, thank you. I'd love that.
And let's talk about receiving money. What does that look like? So
Just,
someone's
yeah,
paid in full. If you've got a service and someone's paid in full, thank you very much for that. That's a
thank
good
you.
way of yeah.
Yep.
Saying
And
thank
also
you.
make sure that you do pay in full. I have people
Yeah,
that
you
do
pay in
services
full.
for me, and I
Exactly.
always pay promptly and say thank you very much,
Yep.
and they appreciate it.
Yeah, so
Done.
when you're paying a bill as well, saying thank you,
Yep.
um, for because they've provided you a service for you to pay that bill, whether it's your electricity or phone bill. So I mean, how many of us get electricity or phone bill and go, "Oh my god, I've got to pay that. I don't like paying my bills. Blah 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 blah. Or I
There's
don't like
actually
my bank account." You
there's a
know.
trick to paying
Mhm,
bills that keeps your money energy pure, and that is
mhm.
when you go to pay a bill, if you sit there going, "Fuck Telstra, I've had to pay the bill again," that's stagnant energy. Instead, if you go, "There you go, Telstra. Well, how good. I can text and I can use my phone, and it's been another month of scrolling on my phone and I can afford it. Fab.
Yep.
Excellent service.
Thank you
Thanks.
very
Cheers.
much.
Bye."
Exactly. Yeah, and always pay your bills on time. You know, don't pay them. Like, don't let them get to a point that they're overdue, because then you've got to pay more when they're overdue as
Well,
well.
yeah, and I mean, if you bought that thing and you couldn't afford it, then that's on you, not
Yeah,
them. And everyone's trying to make a living, aren't
they
we?
are.
Everybody's trying to get the job done.
And I think the other thing too is when you are receiving something from people, not feeling the need to actually have to earn it or give it back somehow, just allow it to come to
Yeah,
you.
that's a big one. I think a lot of people really will struggle with that one.
Yeah,
That's something I've struggled with over the
I struggle with
years.
that one. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I've actually alienated people because they've given me something and I've been so grateful for it that I've overgiven back to the point they think I'm competing with them.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hear that. I do that one. And then I think you need to add boundaries, don't you, around it?
Yeah. Yep.
So how would you do the boundaries? Boundaries in receiving. And I think that comes back to doing that, saying thank you. We talk about saying thank you and saying,
Have
yep,
a
that person,
conversation. Like
yeah,
I said to my the conversation I had with my husband over Christmas, because you have these conversations when you got downtime and you can relax. And I said, "Oh, look, yeah, I feel a bit funny about you being the big earner in the household now. I feel a bit funny about that. I feel like I'm not really contributing." And he said, "What makes you say that?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm not bringing in the money I used to bring in." He said, "But you don't need to." And he said, "And what you provide me with is support. You're my sounding board. You're my strategist. You're my coach." And he said, "I'm well aware that I would not have achieved the level of success that I've achieved in my life if it hadn't have been for you there beside me every step of the way for the last
yeah,
10 years." And I went, "Okay, then in that case, in the spirit of that, I'll receive. Bring it
yeah,
on."
yeah.
Mm,
You've done your earning, so it's looking at it going, you are already worthy of receiving, and just
exactly.
saying thank
Exactly.
you for that
Yeah. Yeah.
receiving. Yeah.
Yep.
Because it's showing
Yeah.
up. And you got to look at it and go, and what is it? What is it that I'm meant to learn from this pattern of behavior? And that, to me,
Yeah.
that learning is to be grateful, because we're programmed. We are seriously programmed. You've got to get out there and make money. And if you're not
Yeah,
making
we
it,
are.
you're
We
lazy.
are.
You
We
know?
are. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
you got
And
to
why do
just
you deserve
wait.
that? Why do you deserve that? People will
And
say
why is
that
it that
to you.
some people, it just comes to them and they're hardly doing anything because they know they're worthy of it. Just allow it in, allow it in.
And they've
And I
done a
think
lot of
that,
work in the past. There's a lot to be said for doing work that you know is going to pay off in the future. That's the
yeah,
other thing. I know that when in the early days of my relationship with my husband, he had a lot of mental health stuff going on. We couldn't figure it. I was like, "What is going on with him?" And I realized, oh, he's autistic. So then I said, "You need to go and speak to," because I was studying psychology at the time. I said, "Oh, I think you're autistic." And he goes, "What? How dare you? I'm not autistic." I said, "No, you do. I think you've got autism. I think you need to go and get an assessment done." And he was horrified and he was quite offended. And there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of emotional stuff going on. And I said, "You
yeah,
really need to go and do it, because I don't think our relationship is going to survive without that." And he went and had 3 assessments with a clinical psychologist who said, "Oh, you're so autistic. You have got autism. Level 1, what they used to call Asperger's. They don't call it that anymore. Highly functioning autistic man. Let's learn how to, understand things like emotional overwhelm. What are your coping mechanisms? What are your strategies?" So all of that, we worked through all of that. He did a lot of work. I did a lot of work. We set his life up to suit him and work in around his neurodivergence. And that it was like a light bulb went on in his head. And suddenly he came into alignment. That's what happened. He started to understand his strengths and his weaknesses and could never figure out why certain things weren't working for him. His brain didn't work that way.
Yeah.
And that journey we went on together, and now he's really reaping the rewards from that because he's continued to build upon his skills and his emotional resilience and all of those things. And that's just allowed him to go up the ladder, which is fantastic. But
Yeah. And
again, yeah, we
that's
receive
that
now.
whole thing, isn't it? It's that
Yeah,
identity shift. It's that because he had an identity shift. He
he
all of a
did.
sudden understood what was going on, and as you said, understood all of a sudden
Yeah,
his strengths and his weaknesses and
yeah,
what his values were, and then aligned himself in working with that. And I think that is you needing to have that identity shift to really understand and allow trust in your life and allow
yeah.
uh, the trust in yourself as
And
well.
to build your confidence. Like when we first got together, I don't think he would ever have thought that he would end up where he's at now.
Yeah.
Never in a million years would he think that he's doing as well as he's doing. And slowly over the years, I've spent a lot of time interrogating interrogating his beliefs. He says to me, I'm his number one super coach. And I'm like, well,
Fantastic.
you're my best project ever.
They are, aren't they? We're probably their best project as well.
Yes, exactly. Don't tell them that though.
No,
But yeah,
no.
so, and that's the thing, isn't it? And so essentially what he's done is interrogated his negative self-beliefs around loads of stuff with heaps of support. And he's been on this growth journey, and it's been an absolute, I mean, there's been highs and lows, but for the most part, it's been an absolute pleasure to watch him grow into the man that he is today. And anyone can do it with the right tools and with the right understanding when they learn what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, what are my blocking beliefs, what are the
Yeah.
things I will interrogate that in myself. Why do I think that way? Where does that come from? Is it from childhood beliefs? Is it from a trauma? Is it from being let down in a relationship? Where's it all coming from, and how can I fix that so that I can move forward and then let the abundance flow back to me?
Exactly. And when you talk about letting that abundance flow in, it literally it's that. It's just allowing yourself to be in flow, just be
Yeah,
in flow, accepting who you are, appreciating what you have to give, and that you don't have to earn it because you earn it from just being who you are. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
appreciating the service that you provide or the service that you receive, and
Mm,
just allowing yourself to be in flow of that because really that's what the universe is all about.
yeah, pretty
It's
much.
actually about that circulation, that constant flow, constant
Yep,
creation, constant
yep,
being, just and being who you truly are at the core and living from that place and
yeah,
allowing
yep.
things to unfold naturally
And
rather than forcing falling
figure
it.
that out, and then just love your life.
Yeah. Fall in love with your life. Absolutely. Yeah. It is all about falling in love with your life.
Yep,
Yep.
totally doable. No matter where you start from, totally doable.
Yeah. So name your block. Yeah. Choose one micro project. We talk about the 7-day micro challenge. So choose one block that you're going to work on over
Yep,
the next 7 days and see how you go with that.
just one.
Uh,
Just take,
just
eat
one.
that
It
elephant
doesn't
one
have to be
bite at a
messy.
time.
Do a
Yeah.
micro receiving challenge.
That's an
Yeah.
awesome one, micro receiving. I really
Micro.
want that Oroton handbag.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, again, the Authentic Life Blueprint workbook. There's quite a lot in that on helping you identify your self sabotaging patterns as well, your
Yes.
core beliefs and where they come from, and really working on those things to help you then become in alignment with who you truly are and
Yeah.
living life from that authentic self. So tap into that as well, see how you go. But we would love to hear how you went with your 7-day micro receiving challenge. That'd be fantastic.
Mm.
Join our Facebook community group and put a pin there about how you've gone with it, or even in our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel as well because we've got more and more recordings that we come out with, and it's all about igniting people and getting them to live life more authentically.
Absolutely. Yep. Let's make 2026 our best year yet.
Oh, totally. All right. So we've got, I think there's a little self assessment we can give as well. Did you want to
Oh,
cover that, Kat?
yeah, that'd be great, actually. Yeah, the self assessment's actually quite interesting. So ask yourself these questions. Firstly, do you minimize compliments?
Mm.
We've talked about that. Do you feel guilty when someone spends money on you?
Ooh.
Do you over explain your prices or discount too quickly if you're a
Oh,
person
gosh,
selling
that's
a
a good one.
service? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I did with those stupid mirrors.
Yep.
Um, do you feel indebted when somebody helps you?
Mm. Gosh.
And do you struggle to ask directly for what you want?
That's a big one.
It's a really big one. That's huge because we're all we're all taught not to ask for what we want. You know, one of the earliest things I heard was askers don't get. That's what I used to get told as a kid.
Askers don't get.
Askers do get. People who explain what they want, they get it.
I was going to say, because I was sitting there thinking, that doesn't make sense to me because you have to ask to receive.
Yeah, it's so dumb. It's the dumbest shit thing I've ever heard. But anyway, that was part of my early programming and I blow it out the door. It's not happening. So yeah, that's really the questions. Ask yourself.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll put those in the description so you can play around with that and have a look at it and map your results. Have a look at it and go, okay, how many have you answered yes to? And then just work on that. It's probably a pretty good thing to do. All right, guys, until next time, thank you for listening to us. And remember to think beautifully and live brilliantly. Ciao. We'd like to say a huge thank you to our incredible audience for your continued support. Our mission is to ignite your spark, empowering you to be a beacon of light for others. We'd love to hear from you. So if you've got any questions that you would like answered in future episodes or just want to share some insights, connect with us on our Facebook community page. If you're looking for additional resources, go to our website. You'll find the link below. And remember, the absolute best way to help us grow is to share this episode with your friends and family and to subscribe to the Art of Beautiful Thinking podcast. So until next time, think beautifully and live brilliantly.